Hello. Let's see how this is going. Not drop frames. Right, everything seems to be alright. Welcome back. This is the fourth live stream of my ultimate Silent Hill character tier list. This tier list has characters from all the games, the movies, Ascension, the comics, all spin-offs, and so far we've done Silent Hill 1, 2, 2 Remake, 3, 4, and Origins out of the mainline games. Regarding spin-offs, we've done the short message, the small ARG that was made to promote Silent Hill 2 Remake. Also done most of the comics, at least the main original run, that includes Dying Inside, Among the Damned, Painted Black, The Ringing Man, and Dead/Alive. So today we're moving on to Homecoming. Homecoming, um, the Hunger comic, which was released only for the PSP as a sort of animated comic as part of the Silent Hill experience. Also, Shattered Memories, and if there's some time left after that, I might do um, maybe Sinner's Reward, which is another comic. Or perhaps I could switch Sinner's Reward with Ascension, which is going to be long, or the Orphan games, which are the mobile phones point and click adventures. It's we have a bit of variety here, plenty of actions to do. Alright, so starting with Homecoming, we're going to move Alex Shepard. This is the protagonist. He's his early 20s. He's very impulsive. He doesn't really take time to think about things, and that's not even about going through with actions. He thinks very little about what happens around him. He's very he's driven very much by instinct of everything else. Um, he did kill his brother, but that was an accident. So it's more about the guilt that he feels, and he convinced himself that he's a soldier so that he didn't have to live with the guilt of having accidentally killed his brother. I I don't really like his story. I think many people can agree that it had lost potential. I do like his performance. I think what's the name of his actor? Ryan Bloom. I think he did a great job. I think I have no problems with his voice acting. Um, the other problem that haunts this character is how he behaves in combat, with very exaggerated motions that are bordering on ridiculous. It tried to be explained away, but it didn't really land for anybody. He isn't a bland character. He certainly has some charm to him, but he's certainly not among the smartest or emotional. He feels a little bit stereotypical, and his relation with Elle, I don't think I can put him in A tier. I don't like him enough for that. Uh, he's very similar to Ike Isaacs, the protagonist from Painted Black, I'd say, in personality. I'd say Alex is more of a character than Ike, so I think he should be above him, and that's what I'm placing here from now. We'll rearrange things when this is all done. Also, fun fact, this was originally about 250 something characters, and as it grew more and more, uh, now it's up to 412, just to show how big this became. It took me quite a few days. Next up is Joshua Shepard. I mean, this is really an innocent kill, but also, from what little we can see, he's also very spoiled. Um, his sin in the Shepherd House Otherworld is that he knew that Alex wasn't alright, but he didn't do anything about it. He did still try to play with him and all, but it kind of shows that he was a bit full of himself, as his parents wanted him to be. But in the end, he's just a kid. I'd say he was still annoying, but I guess in just a way a kid can be. Um, he has a hilarious translation error in the Spanish version of the game. In the boat, he shows Alex the ring and says, "I guess that makes me cool, huh?" And the Spanish subtitles, for some reason, translated that as, "I guess I'm cold now, huh?" And it's so apt for how he's about to fall into the cold lake. Oh, also about Joshua. This is more on Alex than on Joshua, but I don't get why Alex keeps pressuring to chase Joshua through the game when Spooky Ghost Joshua clearly doesn't want anything to do with him. We also have the strange bonus ending where presumably Alex comes back home and there's bottles of water through the house leading up to their bedroom. And when he gets there, Joshua is inside and takes a picture of him. I have no idea how to explain that. I've tried to give it some thought a couple of times, but I never could come up with something that felt meaningful. Um, I'm putting Joshua in C tier. He's a character and he's mostly innocent. Not much that I. He's just a bit annoying because of his spoiled attitude sometimes and his weird ghost that is running around the game. Quote unquote ghost, because, you know, it doesn't have to be one. Lillian Shepard. Lillian, this is Alex and Joshua's mother. It's implied she married into the Shepard family, It's implied that she had no clue about the sacrifice until halfway through the marriage, and it's clear that she didn't want to part with any of the kids. There's a Polaroid collectible that you can find of Judge Holloway speaking to Lillian about something, and Lillian is crying. So it can be inferred that she's telling her that the ritual has to be done soon. She also was too passive. She hid behind a little mask in the shepherd house puzzle of indifference to hide that she was in pain. And this scene of inaction is pretty much what allowed some things to happen. Like, if she hadn't been so cold, um, maybe Adam's preference for Joshua wouldn't have led to the eventual tragedy. Um, she has a weird death. The saw trap is kind of odd, and it doesn't look good graphically. Mm, but I guess it's a decent moment, graphics aside. Uh, I'll talk more about this in Adam's entry, but she also is recurrent in. She's kind of a parallel to Carol Doyle, the woman in the hotel. Whether that indicates that Lillian had an affair with someone, I guess that's up to interpretation. And also, there's some visuals in the Church of the Holy Way that kind of depict Lillian's struggle life. But overall, it's not explored as much as Adams, which I guess fair. He is the shepherd one, but Lillian, uh, I'm giving her a B. I think she can be interesting. I think she can be explored, but we don't really get much out of her in the game. Adam Shepard. I picked this screenshot of him about to die because I thought that would be the most memorable scene he's in. Adam, I think, hmm, I think he's a high A. Just saying right now. I think his drawbacks are that he's domestic. I don't know if it's exactly abuse, but his behavior towards Alex is a little too cartoony and over the top for me. I think that's his weakest point as a character. I think if they had done it more realistically, I would have put him in S tier. I think he's easily the most interesting character in Homecoming. He's kind of a coward. He he didn't want to actually sacrifice his sons, so he just started treating Alex badly so that he didn't have to get attached to him. And in the end, when he loses one of his sons, despite having raised Alex for the sole purpose of killing him, he refuses to go through with his sacrifice and sends Alex to safety at a mental hospital. And I think that's a very interesting course of action for Adam. Um, I I think he's a lot more complex than it seems at first glance. He obviously carries a lot of weight behind him. And something else that kind of props him up for me is that in the Church of the Holy Way, there's that confessional guy that is very obviously meant to represent Adam, but there's also a lot of imagery throughout the church that is trying to present Adam as some sort of knight coming to the town to slay the monster, but they also depict him as trying to reach for Lillian, for a woman. And it does seem to me that Adam is supposed to be a man that is really held back by his past. Uh, in the church, there's an image of a tree holding back the night to hit, to not let him reach a woman. And I think that's pretty much why Adam does what he does. He's held back so much by the family, and when he pretty much loses everything, he goes to Silent Hill, and in the stained glass of the church, there's an executioner that looks very much like Baltiel that spears him from the back. And I think the parallel that it tries to make is that his search is futile, and his ultimate fate is to just get killed by a symbol of the town, which ends up being an executioner, Pyramid Head, in some way. If he just, I think it's very interesting. If his disdain for Alex had been less over the top or cartoony, I would have put him in S tier. But I think that could have been done more efficiently, and it probably would have made his character a lot better to think about. Because I get the impression that a lot of people, when they play Homecoming, uh, those scenes are just what stick in their minds the most. And by the end, they're left with the impression that uh, no, they're not left with the impression that Adam chose not to carry out any sacrifice. I don't think that part um, gets through to people as much as the more cartoony abuse scenes. If this game were ever touched again, uh, that's probably somewhere in my top priorities. I really think that they can do something with his military background and how it shapes his attempt to detach from Alex. I think if that's done great, Adam Shepard is perfectly an S tier character. Next up is Major Sam Bartlett. Hmm. I'm somewhere between an A tier in general or a high B tier. Sam is, well, he's the mayor of Shepherd's Glen, but he's also not very effective at his job. How old is Adam? I don't remember. He was born in the 70s, right? He might have not had a own sibling. Um, what was I talking about? Sam Bartlett. He's not very effective as a mayor in times of need, despite that being his role as a. It was executor of law, something like that. That was his role as a family, as the Bartlett family. Um, he's a bit of comic relief, but there's a few branches in his dialogue tree where you can kind of see that he's just like this because he's given up. And I like that he's nuanced. Um, he certainly cared about Joey, that's for sure. He has some nice details, like the wine bottle that he's drinking from has the logo of the Bartlett winery, which is a really nice touch. There's unused singing dialogue from him. He's just singing an absurd, kind of horny song, and he's very obviously drunk. But as he repeats the same, as he goes through each verse, he kind of starts tearing up more and more. And when he finishes the song, he's just left with nothing, and he just starts sobbing. And I really wish that would have made it into the game. That would have really shown more of the nuance behind him being. He's sort of comic relief, but he's comic relief because he has nothing else left in his life. I really like that. Um, Morally, though, if we want to put something moral into this, he had an affair with a married woman, and that woman's husband was dying illness, and that's a really messed up thing to do. But I guess that adds to the nuance. I'm gonna put him in A tier. He's entertaining. He has some nuance that is kind of hidden. I I don't know if I wish we would see more of him, but I like what we can infer from his from notes and his backstory. Joey Bartlett. This one is probably very difficult because we know pretty much nothing about him. He did have a very spoiled childhood because of Mayor Bartlett, but we never hear about him being a bad kid. I have to confess something, which is gonna play into the kids' tears. I don't like the Sepulcher. Uh, he's my least favorite homecoming design. I think that might knock him to see. I like the idea of an inverted tree, and I like the root that kind of gashes his mouth, but I can't really get behind the actual design that he has. Dr. Fitch. Hmm. Morally, he seems like the best of all the parents, just not as nuanced as Adam. Uh, Dr. Fitch, he saved kids from a drowning bus, and seeing how thin and so he's so thin, he's almost a stick, and to imagine him going for the save of so many kids, that's kind of badass. Um, he's struggling with his mental health after killing Scarlet. He is clearly declining. I, I'm I'm curious about the implication of how many times and for how long he's been to hell descent to self-harm and how he does it. I'm very curious about that. But that's kind of food for thought, not really um, wading into the tier placement. Um, he's a bit uncomfortable to look at, which is the point. I wish we would have seen more of him uh, in like his first appearance. You know, when he's still, clothed. Um, I guess he's a B tier. I don't find him as interesting, although morally he's definitely a. I definitely like him more as a person, but as a character, he doesn't interest me as much. I think if we had met him in a few more scenes, he would definitely be bumped up to maybe near Sam. But for now, he's a B tier. Not a B minus. I'll just rearrange him whenever I start arranging tiers within themselves. Scarlet, she seems very lonely. She likes her dolls, but it doesn't look like she had many friends, judging from the Polaroid photo. She at least had interests like dancing and presumably art. Um, I'm gonna get killed for my takes on homecoming bosses, but uh, her boss fight is is cool, but uh, there's something about her design that doesn't click for me for a 12-year-old girl. It and it's going to play into Nora as well. I think she's above Joshua and Sepulchre for that, but I like the monster, but I don't know if I like it being representative of a 12-year-old girl. That's kind of what he. That's what kind of what mm, icks me a little. Margaret Holloway. Mm, uh, I mean, she's going to be low for sure. I don't really like her as a villain. I think the game had some opportunity to explore explore her and her beliefs, but it kind of got rushed into one cutscene and then she dies immediately after. Um, she isn't very threatening nor much manipulative. Mm, I'd probably put her in a D tier. I mean, she her character model is definitely sticks out definitely as the worst in the game, even if just in comparison. There was some planned concepts of her being a lawyer who isn't even a Holloway. She just married into the family, and I don't think that's left in the final game, so I can't claim it as canon. But I think that her greed to stay in the family no matter what could have been also interesting to explore. I wish there was more about her. Also, when she gets introduced in the Cult Slayer, she's in that cross-legged pose, and her skirt is clipping into her legs so blatantly that I'm very surprised how no one caught that in playtesting. Elle Holloway. Um, she's a normal girl. I guess she has points in being a realistic teen. Um, that might make her not very interesting, but it kind of evens out. I don't. I'm not sure if I like the love interest angle with Alex. There's unused lines of her in combat fighting monsters, and they go completely unused. And it just makes me really want to see Elle fighting because she looks like she'd fight a little, and it's a shame that didn't get to happen. Uh, her design is also a little rough. The hair, I like the alternate design that went to news. Is she? Uh, I guess I guess she can be alongside Dr. Fitch. She's still relatable. She's not bad as a person either. She's just not as interesting to think about. Nora Holloway. I mean, I kind of already gave my thoughts on how I don't really gel with asphyxia. I thought that is a cool design. Nora, she's an avid reader. We get so little about her. A bit more than Joey, at least, but not very much. Her fight can be a little bullshit too. What else? She had a pendant. That that's it. She liked Alice in Wonderland. Am I missing something? I'm trying to think about something else about Nora, and I can't come up with anything. What else? Did Nora have anything else? I guess not. I really wish I would like the bosses a lot more because I do like their designs, but for Scarlet and Nora, but I kind of gives me a nick that they're so good. Deputy Wheeler, I'm putting him above Sam. He's also kind of comic relief, but he's also very effective, and he's a beast in combat. Like, I think if you could make a mod to have Deputy Wheeler around you the whole game, you wouldn't have to swing the knife once or shoot a single bullet to beat the game. He's a conspiracy theorist into chemtrails and all that stuff, which it's in another character would be at a point down, but for him it works. I like that he barricaded the entire police station and that he still worked with Elle even when he was at peak paranoia. I don't know what else to say. He's he's fun to be around. He's helpful. He's reliable. A tier. Who the hell is this? Oh, it's Curtis. Curtis. He's not going to be very high up. He's a little one note, but he's he's fun. He has a fun. He has a he does a fun performance. Very memorable. Uh, it makes so much sense that he ends up taking the role of a minor antagonist. Um, there's a small glimpse of an arc behind him, of a backstory, when he says that the cult gave him clarity, that it gave him a purpose, and we see that his true calling and purpose seems to just be being violent. And I kind of like the idea that grabbing a kind of gruff person and giving them free reign to be as cruel and violent as they can. He also has a lot of funny lines. Um, I'm gonna put him in B tier. He's just a little too one note compared to the others that are also funny, but he's fun. He did he does his job well, fixing things. It's his gift. Dr. Coven, presumably, if the nightmare is to be believed, he's the doctor that either authorizes or carried out the potential potential lobotomy Alex might have gone through. Uh, he pretty much has to be a bad person. We don't get much about him. D tier. The founding fathers. Um, I already forgot their names, but you know, I believe Margaret when she says that they had good intentions. You know, in that era, Silent Hill was still very violent with the executions at the prison and all. So it makes sense that some people would have tried to leave for something more peaceful. Um, I guess in those times when people had more kids per family, that would have seemed like a more accepting deal to them instead of in the current time where they're pretty much only having two kids or even just one. Um, also, most of their graves and talk about having passed a curse onto people, onto the town by doing that. So it seems that they came to regret it at some point. Especially, what was the name of the first shepherd? Isaac. Isaac Shepherd's tomb clearly regrets having made the deal. I'm gonna put them in B tier. Paul Russell Douglas. I have no clue what his deal is. Why is he there? Why does the exact same memo spawn twice in the game in different places? I've heard of the theory that um, the serial killings that he was executed for were used as a cover up for the Shepherd's Clan sacrifices, and I think that could have been a nice idea, but uh, I can't wrap my mind around the logistics of that, so I kind of have a hard time trying to think about it. I get kind of scatterbrained about it. Uh, he was executed and died at 209, while the game's arc number is 206, and it feels at first like it is going to be relevant, but it might have just been a red herring. Maybe someone. It almost feels like someone made a typo, but I don't know. It could have been deliberate. And I don't get why the news article about him. I mean, it makes sense that it will spawn in the playground in Shepherd's Glen. You know, death of kids. It's relevant, but why does it also spawn again in the power plant? And it's entirely unchanged. That confuses me so much because it's not a hint to any puzzle. No other memo kind of continues this subplot. It's so weird. I'm gonna put him in C because I mean he confuses me, so I'm going to think about it a lot more. But still, what's your deal, guy? What did you die? Borden twins. These are definitely just an E tier. I'm not sure about their significance. They were at least important enough to the town at some point. Maybe the tragedy that they they had that team throughout the graveyard. They're definitely not a sacrificial kid, judging by the last name. I don't know. Clayton Doyle. This is the old man that lives. I don't know. I don't remember if he owns the Grand Hotel, but he definitely lives in it and is important in it. He is very sick. He needs help from Alcamilla, and he's dying. Was it cancer? I'm not sure if it was cancer or some nondescript illness. And then his wife cheats on him with Mayor Bartlett. He's such a sad character to think about. He leaves an impression on me, so I'm gonna put him in B tier. But man, he seems like a nice guy. He doesn't even get angry at Carol for cheating on him. He just sounds depressed and sad, disappointed. Carol Doyle, the woman behind the door. Uh, Morally, she's kind of terrible for what she did to Clayton. But also, it's kind of interesting that she's still longing for the better times without remembering anything. I guess in that way, it's kind of to be a intended to be a reversal parallel to James and Mary. Uh, she sends you on a fetch quest with one save point. That sucks. She does an Exorcist 3 reference. That's cool. I like that. We all stand Exorcist 3 in this house. Her being behind the door is a bit derivative of Ernest Baldwin. Oh, is she? A, hmm. I'm gonna keep her in B, but not necessarily above or below Clayton, because I can't morally pick between him or the one who cheated on him for being more interesting. Paul Ashley, kind of the MVP of the Grand Hotel, presumably does about everything. He caught Carol and Mayor Bartlett. This game has a lot of Pauls. I forgot to mention it. Paul Russell Douglas, Paul Ashley, and Paul Chibel. Kind of weird. Uh, he presumably is a very good employee. Uh, I'm gonna put him on C just because he seems like a very good dude. Mr. Jones, the manager, I think, of the Grand Hotel. He's definitely less interesting than the MVP Paul Ashley. He kinda gets mentioned in a few notes, but I don't know if he ever takes action on anything. We just hear from that Paul is trying to talk to him about what's going on. Because Paul also witnessed Mayor Bartlett burying the body of Joey in the atrium. Who knows, maybe Mr. Jones is in on it. That could be interesting. Overlooked prisoners. With this, I kind of wanted to include the many notes that we see about them going hungry after the cards disappeared. I get the impression that when the quote unquote calamity struck, The prisoners shifted to the folk world, and to them it looked like the staff disappeared, but it was them. I like to think about it in that way. They have they left plenty of scribblings in the prison cells. Some are funny, some are trying to be edgy, some are trying to be scary. But it's kind of weirdly comforting to see it. Sit here. The Overlook guards. Uh, Not much about them. They were kind of, I think they were kind of mentioned to be a bit abusive at the beginning, but before they disappear, I don't remember much about them. So I'm gonna put them in E tier, unless it was counting the if it were counting the Overlook guards from Downpour, then they kind of stay in the same place, but only because they're worst people. Paul Scheibel, this guy, this guy is the one argument to prove that Homecoming is not trying to say that there's an actual god punishing Shepard's clan. Paul Scheibel's articles are in the game to show that he went to both Silent Hill and Shepard's clan, and he saw nothing odd. And the implication is that it's supposed to be that the people in both towns are the ones who shifted. It's There isn't a higher force punishing both towns for everyone. Uh, he's also kind of a joke. I don't know, joke. A reference to Joseph Schreiber. Um, and I like how unimpressed he is with both towns. It's kind of funny. There. See you, Roman. Sergeant Nash. This guy might not even exist. This is a man that Alex mentions in his diary. That was in the Homecoming website before the game launched, and this was supposedly a sergeant recovering in the hospital with him. And I guess that this could go two ways. He was either not real and just completely made up by Alex, or he could have been a patient or an orderly that was playing along with Alex just to humor him and I don't know, be friendly. I um, there isn't much to describe about him, but he kind of could be interesting to think about. So, C tier. And the other leaders, we don't know much about them. Again, we know their initials. They seem to really believe in that they are saving Shepard's clan. That's interesting. We don't. We kind of see them trying to convert people. We see them codifying their beliefs, which are presumably being written just very recently, because I doubt that anything from the Vincent era survived. Uh, I'm gonna put them in C tier. This has been all over the place. I like it. Okay, Homecoming finished. Our highest ranked character is Adam Shepard, and the lowest ranked are the Overlook guards and the Burden twins. Moving on to the Hunger comic. This one was released on the PSP as part of the Silent Hill experience. It pretty much depicts how Silent Hill it's pretty much a Silent Hill origins, but with its own story. This is Douglas Burnham. He's the up, 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 up. He's the main character. He's a journalist that's kind of stuck in uninteresting articles, but he ends up noticing that some people in Silent Hill are acting oddly hungry, and well, the villain tries to convince him that he is also hungry for information, for knowledge. Uh, he's not exactly a great character, but he is believable. He's relatable. He handles things like almost like anyone. Um, I would put him in B tier. I don't think. Do I like him more than Ike or Kenneth? Nah, I'm putting him here. He's an okay protagonist. He might be a little average for somebody, but he does the audience surrogate role very well. He isn't boring. He's just a man, an everyman. Next up, we have Rosie. This is Douglas Burnham's girlfriend. She starts off being very nice and chill and quiet, but then as the hunger starts setting in town, she becomes mm, more outgoing and a bit wild. She ends up turning into a monster that doesn't look good, but I like her corruption arc. It's kind of cool to see in a character that was initially a benevolent character. This is a citizen of Silent Hill. I forgot her name. She is just very minor. She's just. I think it was a report on her on a what was it? A flower competition, a gardening competition, I think. And I think she won. And Douglas has to interview her a bit. She's not really anything special, just showing the calm before the storm. This is Mario. This is Douglas's boss. He's kind of aggressive. If I remember correctly, does he become a monster? I'm not sure, but he does become. I think he does die by the end. Uh, he's kind of an asshole. Douglas doesn't really mind it. he has a bit of presence. Low C. Um, this is Sheriff. This is Sheriff Bryce Canavan, if I'm not mistaken. This is Silent Hill's sheriff that is investigating the sudden murder of an unidentified person. And while Douglas is investigating, odd events around Silent Hill, Sheriff Canavan is on onto the house where the first murder occurred. I like him. I'm gonna put him in beat here already. Uh, and he confronts the main villain of the comic, who is this guy. He looks like Walter. This is Waitley, a sorcerer of some sort, summoning the other world to Silent Hill. And Sheriff Canavan tries to confront him and gets killed for it. I like his side adventure. He has a good presence. He's memorable. He's cool. I like him. This is the deputy, uh, Canavan's deputy. He's an asshole too, but less interesting. No, I think he had a funny line that I can't remember. I think he just disappears from the plot eventually. But I'm gonna put him in C tier just in case I remember what the funny line was. Because I sure as hell don't right now. I might bring Mario to D tier. He's not as fun. This is Perkins. Perkins? Or Jenkins? Uh, no, it's Perkins. This is an employee at the news station. He's characterized for being very lazy and slow at doing things, so Mario is very fed up with him. And he eventually gets so lazy that when monsters start appearing in town, he just transforms into a half lizard thing, dragging his tail behind him, but still just barely simple minded enough to understand short commands. Uh, he doesn't really get aggressive though. CTR because I think that scene was kind of fun. Um, oh, this woman. This is an old woman. Um, so Douglas is interviewing people around town about a suspicious person bringing women to uh, people's houses, and this woman is a witness. She saw the suspicious man uh, entering a house with a woman, and then the woman kind of became a monster, if I remember correctly. And she's she's kind of she starts telling the story with while eating grapes, and she's just at first sucking them a little before eating them, but by the end of the story, she's grabbing the grapes and shoving them into her mouth, and it's as absurd and it is kind of disturbing to imagine. I'm gonna put her in beat here just because of that imagery. I think that's the most memorable moment of hunger for me. Next up is a vagrant. So when Douglas notices that people are reporting kind of monsters and such, he sees a very Silent Hill 2 opening coded scene. There's a vagrant that seems to be squirming about in a pile of trash, and Douglas approaches him, and the vagrant gets up, and he's still very much human, but his arms are wrapped around himself like a lying figure. I don't think this moment is as effective as the grape woman. Um, but I think as a nod, it works. It should be very derivative, but it feels like a homage and not a copy paste. Sit here. Uncle Milty, or Millie, don't remember how it was spelled. This is the owner of a hair salon in Silent Hill. I don't remember he was literally Douglas's uncle, or they just call him Uncle affectionately. But the point is that when everything goes down and the art style shifts to this weird oil painting style, uh, Douglas goes to the hair salon for safety and finds Uncle Mildy at his table. He seems normal, but as he tries to talk to him and get answers, uh, this man starts getting consumed by the hunger, and he grabs a pair of scissors and tries to kill Douglas with them. I think the scene is better than the vagrants, so I'm gonna put him in low C tier. The character, you know, he was a normal person. He was just at the wrong town at the wrong time. I think I have like one or two hunger characters left. Just one. Dr. Eichmann. Nothing to do with Dr. Kaufman. This doctor, with the face of Christian Bale, if you can see it, he's uh, sort of employed by Whately. Dr. Eichmann's role is to find a woman who can be the vessel for Samael. So he's been going around town, um, investigating women, sleeping with them. Then, if they don't work, he just kills them. Uh, I think he's kind of odd in that he shows up to be the final piece in the puzzle very late into the comic after so much of the runtime being following his trail, and he kinda just does nothing because as they talk, Whately just pulls Douglas out. I think it could be more interesting, but I don't know. The comic itself kind of kills his potential. His motivation seems to just be lust, not greed like Dr. Kaufman. Um, and that's it. He's just a doctor working for a sorcerer. And that's Hunger, the comic. You can find it on YouTube. Um, it's it's not exactly hard to follow. I think it's I think it barring the next ones, I think it's the easiest to follow Silent Hill comic, which is weird because all the previous ones have been very convoluted. Um, what's the plan next? Let's talk about Silent Hill Orphan. Oh, this one is going to test my memory a lot. It's very difficult to remember Orphan. So Ben, he's the first protagonist of Orphan. He was originally a well, Orphan, the main location that we explored in the first game. Turns out he survived a massacre that occurred at the orphanage because he had a life-threatening disease that he didn't know about at the time, but the person slash spirit that carried out the massacre felt it in him and saved him. Well, not saved him, but decided not to kill him for that. Well, come to present day, and he's in the orphanage, abandoned orphanage, and after exploring a bit, he dies. Yeah, kind of anticlimactic. He returns as a sort of zombie in the third game. He's he's probably the most forgettable of all the original protagonists. The second protagonist is Moon. She's a very mentally ill girl. She's suicidal, and she also survived the massacre because the entity knew that she would probably just kill herself at some point, and she didn't. And she returned to the orphanage and died. Uh, I can't really explain more than that because it's just that bare bones. Remember, these are point and click games for a classic mobile phone. Not smartphones, just flip ones. I'm gonna put her in C because that story is, to me, a bit more interesting than Ben's. Oh, Karen, what do we do with her? She's a very weird character. In the first game, she was also the last survivor of the orphanage massacre, but then realized that her imaginary friend, I think, or dead sister, I think it was her dead sister, that carried out the massacre in her name. And Karen is very distressed about this. She's very mad at her sister for what she did. And that's how the first game ends, with that revelation. Come the second game, and Karen is a villain trying to do a summoning for Alessa. Oh, fuck. I said it before time. Yes, her sister is named Alessa and has nothing to do with Alessa Gillespie. Go figure. And Karen is a weird villain in the second one for some reason. And then in the third one, no, in the second one, then she dies. She gets killed by the new protagonists. And in 3, she returns as an evil spirit. I don't know if to respect or hate whatever the hell is happening to her. I get she's not a really compelling antagonist either. It's so weird. I have to learn one day what the hell was going on behind the scenes because that story writing is so odd. I do not remember anything about Lucas. I'm trying to remember something about Lucas. I mean, he's the one that kills Karen, so that's a plus. Could it be? Was he actually dead the whole time? I think that was his reveal. And then he appears in either later in the game as a monster in the wall or in the third game. I'm gonna put him in D below Ben because I feel like he had something mildly interesting going for him, but I cannot remember it at all. And I don't wanna cheat. Alessa. Yes, you're looking at that right. It looks just like Claudia, but no, it's Alessa, Karen's dead sister. She's evil in one. I don't remember what she does in two. I think she guides Lucas along. I think is she the final boss in three? I'm telling you, this gets so convoluted. I mean, points down for just being Claudia Wolf's face. And for being Claudia Wolf's face and using Alessa's name is such a weird, awful choice. It makes it so hard to remember anything about her. But she did the massacre in the orphanage in Orphan 1, and I think Karen wanted to summon her in the later games for some reason. I'll have to replay them at some point, and I'm not sure if I'm looking forward to it. Vincent. Nothing to do with Father Vincent from Silent Hill 3. This is the second protagonist of 2 and the protagonist of 3. Um, I think he's an arsonist. He he killed someone. I don't remember who, but he did kill someone on accident. I think he usually went for victimless arson. His father was a comically abusive firefighter. Like he has some horrible lines. I remember him being more interesting than that. Gary, this is Vincent's father. This is the comically abusive firefighter dad. I guess he's extremely shallow. He got killed by Vincent for being so abusive. His lines are terrible. he's not offensively uncreative like Alessa, but you know, he's bad, barely a character. Being barely a character when you are supposed to be a character is not good. And Emily, this is the last protagonist of Orphan or Mobile 3. She is summoned to the location of that game, and I think Alessa or Karen trick her into killing herself so that everything can end. Just psych, that actually made things worse, and Vincent has to finish things. I remember her being a decent person. I'm gonna put her in. Also, it's kind of actually tragic how she's fooled. I'm gonna put her in C tier. And that's the Orphan series done. Next up is Shattered Memories, but we're gonna make a pause for a second, and I'll be right back and start with Shattered Memories. Hello back. Um, Break Sober We are now going to move on to Silent Hill Shattered Memories, the reimagining of the first game made for the Wii, and that's the console you should play it in. Gonna give my piece of advice before starting Shattered Memories. Play the Wii version first. If you can't handle the motion controls, then I guess you could try the PSP version. Do not, and I mean do not, play the PlayStation 2 version. That one is straight up made with an unfinished build, and it looks awful. Uh, the Wii version is beautiful, and you should try it there. Alright, we're moving on to this, and we're starting with look at these wonderful character arts that I picked to represent the characters. This is all official art, by the way. I just thought they were too beautiful to not use. First up is Father of the Year himself, Harry Mason. Uh, because in Shattered Memories, your character can have different personalities or style depending on your own psychological profile. Harry is kind of hard to place because he can be a terrible father, he can be a terrible person. In this case, I will be ranking him by my Harry, the one I get the most, and that is Love Lost Harry. You know, he was just a nice dad, but the marriage wasn't working out, and he had to leave the family. Not without reassuring Cheryl that she was still very much loved by both of her parents. My Harry, he can be aggressive sometimes, but he's also very he has a set path, and he knows what the priorities are. He knows Cheryl is the first most priority. He doesn't tend to get distracted. He starts off nice. If he loses patience, then he can be a bit loud. Steer, he's just a really great dad. Next up is the real protagonist of Silent Hill Shattered Memories. This is Carol Heather Mason from Michigan. She lost her father at a very young age and has grown up all sorts of troubled. She's not well, and she's now stuck with a alcoholic therapist. You can learn a lot of stuff about her throughout the game. She has had it hard. She has committed crimes, but deep inside, she's still just a scared, broken woman. And I find her so very easy to sympathize with. Uh, I think that with Cheryl, you don't have to have lived the same things that she has to really, really connect with her and what her life must have been like. Sybil Bennett. I really love this portrayal of Sybil. I always get the one in this artwork. She's very friendly, cozy, she's nice, and she can get overbearing at times, but she really does worry about what is happening to you. And the only time she gets aggressive is when she thinks that you fooled her. And even then, she comes around to it. She's just, she's, oh, I'm going to say something so controversial. I think she's miles above Silent Hill 1 Sybil. They're both nice, but Shattered Memory Sybil just feels the most like an like a competent ally, even when she's kind of working against Harry. It's hard to describe because that seems kind of contradictory. But if you play it, you know. The man himself, Dr. Michael Kaufman from the Shattered Memories continuity. We're going for the fourth S tier in a row because Dr. Kaufman is a terrible therapist, but a fucking fascinating character. Every line delivery he does, every gesture, every test that he hands you, ev- everything about his body language, everything is just so entertaining. You find yourself looking forward to the Kaufman sections because he's just that entertaining to watch. And he seems like he has had a story of his own with divorce or other patients, and it has clearly made him very bitter, but not any less entertaining. And it's really fun to think about what the hell happened in his life to to make him say the things that he does. If you meet a therapist like him in real life, do not enter that room. He's going to ruin your life. Michelle Valdez. Oh my god, this is going to be the fifth S tier in a row because I love Michelle Valdez. Michelle, well, again speaking from my playthroughs, Harry and Michelle have just a awesome bond between them. A very much father and daughters bond. Michelle is so nice. She's very helpful. She has an amazing singing voice. Uh, she has some trouble of her own, but she still offers to help Harry. And also, the first nice Latino representation in Silent Hill. So we're celebrating for that. She's just, she's a great person. Very much a friend. Probably the most consistent friend Harry has in the entire game. And I'd like to think that when Cheryl was in high school, Michelle was her friend. We're not counting the Slits and Sirens ending for that. Lisa will break the streak of S tier, but she's still an A tier. I know that for many people, Lisa in Shattered Memories kind of is just there for a quota, but I really like her personality. I think I think that what they were going for is that this cynical, kind of exhausted Lisa could be the Lisa that we never knew in Silent Hill 1. I think that's what they're trying to portray here. It's true that she lacks screen time, but I think she makes the most out of what she has. Um, You can tell that she's not a bad person. She's just numbed by substance abuse and the long nurse shifts, which I was kind of surprised to learn that hospitals aren't really good for nurses because of the culture that is around them. I think Shattered Memories Lisa conveys that very well. If she had more of a screen time to rival original Lisa, I think they could be on par. But I really like this portrayal of Elisa that instead of needing to stay and be rescued, she goes out against all common sense. She lives, and that's what gets her. Uh, okay, this one wasn't very clear from the streamer I saw doing this, but this is the fake Dahlia, the one that you meet as both young and as an old woman in the apartment. And this is Dahlia Mason, the real woman that's waiting for Cheryl outside the lighthouse and appears in the endings. This is just a projection sorts. So I find Dahlia very interesting. I think she is going back into S tier. Why do I like this Dahlia that makes no fucking sense as a counterpart to the original? And here I'm going to tell you, she does. Both Dahlias have this purpose to lead Harry astray from Cheryl. Of course, Dahlia in the original made it through manipulating, lying, while Dahlia in Shattered Memories does this in the Maria way. She tries seduction, she tries distractions, but at their core, they have the exact same purpose. Now, I do like this Dahlia as an evolution of Maria as well. I feel like this is the ultimate combination between Maria and the original Dahlia. She can be as much of an obstacle as a motivation to go forwards. And depending on your profile, she can she can even be nice. Like Punk Dahlia can be very nice to you, while the others can kind of just treat you like an object. She's a temptation with the purpose of leading you astray from Cheryl. And I think she works. And what also works is the shock, the initial shock of when you play this for the first time and seeing everything has been shuffled around or turned into something different that you can still identify. And then you come to Dahlia and she's unrecognizable. And her connection to Harry just throws you off so bad because until about that point, the games have been following pretty much the same path narratively. And Dahlia shows up there to break that comfort. And I really like that. I really respect that. So, Dahlia Shattered Memories S tier. Now, of course, we have to talk about her real counterpart, Dahlia Mason. She, of course, is not going to be very high since by nature we don't know much about her. We know that Cheryl demonizes her a lot, but depending on the ending, it may or may not be warranted. We know that in the end, regardless of what happened, she's still there for Cheryl, waiting outside the lighthouse. I think she's a B tier, just because we don't know much about her. And going off my ending, which is Love Lost, she's not a bad person either. She was kinda grumpy in some of the flashbacks, and she can be grumpier, in the voicemails. But for me, she always came across as just, she's a woman. She's not, nothing special to hate, to love. She's just a person. Here we have the barmaid. Okay, she's also a very minor character. Uh, Dear, she's helpful. She appears if you enter the bar across from the 52 diner, which is only sometimes open. She's helpful. She's still miraculously working in those conditions. Not much to say. She's just an average citizen. Oh, John. John is Michelle's boyfriend, who becomes her ex-boyfriend during the game. He pretty much leaves her hanging um, at both the high school and the Balkan. He takes so long to arrive, and when he gets there, he's very jealous of Harry. And then, for me, he breaks up with her. He's terrible. He's a terrible person. Um, Putting him with a barmaid. Also, he's a lawyer from Massachusetts. What we have here, these are Mike and Lucy Stewart. They can be either both school teachers, or Mike Stewart is a doctor. Uh, I like them. I'm not sure if their personality changes depending on profile, but in my experience, they are always very nice when you knock on their door. They're the people that are living in your house after after you died. They are, for me, they are initially very nice. They're kind of confused as to what happened to you, try to offer help. But of course, Harry becomes agitated, and they start getting feeling a bit threatened, and eventually call the police on you. Uh, I just, I just really like them as the average family in Silent Hill. Are they a happy family? Maybe. Also, in Toluca Mall, you can find a model house in a toy store, and if you look inside, you'll notice that it's the exact same house as the Levin Street house. And of course, there's figures inside that kind of look like the Stuarts. Now we're moving into the minor characters. This is the clear picture wedding room. So at the opening of the game, you have two places to go through. You can go through the clear picture, photo development, and video editing shop, or a clothes store. You choose clear picture, you find a recorded message about the groom of a wedding, complaining that the employees erased the tape of his wedding, and he's kind of devastated about it. He's very upset. Uh, I think this pretty much parallels what we'll learn later with how the erasing of memories through the continuous repetition of a tape. The groom is nothing special as of himself, but he's there for a purpose that I like. So he's in CTR. Desk Sergeant Thompson. When you leave the car in the forest, you can call the police, and you get this very helpful desk sergeant asking you your name. Uh, if Harry gives it to them, then he immediately tries to find you because you're on the run, and that's kind of funny. And also, if Harry is paranoid, he will start demanding, "Why did you want to know my name?" And both options I like very much. Um, I guess at the because the guy himself doesn't really matter much, but I like the interaction. Jackie. Oh, Jackie. Okay. Jackie is the girl that calls from the cabin in the woods about the other guys at the party doing drugs and stuff, and she's very uncomfortable. I'll say she might go in B just because that was the first time in my first playthrough years ago where I got a sense of unease in this game, and it really stuck with me. Brothers in the Woods. This one is a tragic side plot about, there's a pair of brothers in the woods, of course, and one of them gets trapped in the waterworks on a pump station and drowns or freezes to death. The other kind of just gives up on living soon after. I'm gonna put them in B tier. Don't really have to say much about them. It's a it's a bleak story. Joel Senior and Joel Junior. Joel Senior is a hunter. He uses the Orion Hunting Lodge, uh, to work his craft. But he's also a very aggressive man, and is imposing this line of work onto his son. And in some variations, he's even homophobic. Uh, see, because his messages really stand out a lot. Joel Jr. This is going to go completely off my head canon. Joel Jr., of course, is the son of Joel Sr. He's had a very difficult upbringing, having to kill animals that he doesn't really want to kill. So, my head canon, the cabin at the end of the forest has a pit in the middle, a shovel on a corner, and bloodstains leading into it. And so you get closer, and Cheryl screams, and it all freezes over. But you can see that there are hung up photographs of women, and my headcanon is that Joel Jr. became that universe's counterpart to Walter Sullivan because of that messed up upbringing. And this is going to be my most out of pocket, uh, less rational tier placements in this whole series, but I'm putting Joel Jr. in A tier entirely out of a headcanon. Without that headcanon, though, maybe he would have been a D tier. Here we have Steve. Steve was presumably Cheryl's boyfriend who dumped her before prom. He appears a few times during the school level, and I can't confirm or deny that he is the guy from the Pigtails subplot. Uh, I'm putting him in C tier. Okay, next up is the characters from the Choking Game subplot. Rick, we know nothing about, straight up. Um, his brother, Todd, who's next, accidentally hung himself, trying to give himself, how do you call it? It's a game when you wrap a belt around your neck, uh, cause oxygen loss, and you cannot get high from that. And Rick's brother accidentally killed himself through that. Rick is only mentioned once, uh, in a message about how some employees of the Wonderland Burger joined, made a prank about hanging. They put up what do you call it, an apron and a cap to make it look like a hanged person, and Rick was definitely very destroyed about it. That's all we know about Rick himself. Todd, however, Todd we actually get to listen to when he's dying, and it's messed up. We get a voicemail of him hanging himself with the belt and accidentally dying. Kathleen and Mike from the prom subplot. Uh, they seem like good kids. Like, I don't think we get anything bad about them. They seem like the perfect couple. Not much to say. Kathleen presumably buys the dress from the clothes store from the beginning, and that dress, the prom dress, presumably came from Cheryl after Steve dumped her. Presumably. Principal Fisher. This guy, this is the principal of Midwich High School, and this guy is such a boomer. He's hilarious. You learn so much about him for the puzzle, which involves looking around his office to learn his interests, his personal life, and then using that to answer a recovery question for his PC password. And this guy he's just a bummer. He hates his wife, he hates his job, he hates his son. He only likes his dog. And it's so he's so grumpy that he's just amazing. Valerie Fisher. This is Principal Fisher's ex. Um, she hates him. No, I can see why. You can call her to learn her name, and she's not happy about being called. Um, Not as funny as her ex-husband, but it's still a funny moment. Mr. Gordon. Okay, this one I also have to. This is also a hill that I have to die on because Mr. Gordon is implied by a handful of characters to be a teacher having an affair with Cheryl in high school. The evidence of that is that we have one photo of Cheryl and Mr. Gordon in the classroom, and Cheryl is hiding her face into his chest, and the other is where they are both in Mr. Gordon's car, and they're covering their faces after they took a photo with flash at them. And those two instances are the only times that we see them together. So what happens? I'm going to die on the hill that Mr. Gordon was not having an affair with Cheryl. Let's start with the simple. Mr. Gordon is the counterpart to the original game's Miss K. Gordon or Kim Gordon. She helped Alessa. She wanted to help Alessa. So his counterpart in Shattered Memories, while sure it can make sense to twist it into having an affair, I want to think that he's also trying to help her. I mean, she had a pretty rough childhood, so I think in the classroom photo, Cheryl was just staying after class to ask Mr. Gordon for support. And in the car, I find it entirely plausible that Mr. Gordon was just going to drive Cheryl's home. After all, she lived at the time at the opposite edge of town. Um, the thing about Mr. Gordon having an affair with Cheryl comes from an unreliable narrator, which are her classmates. Her classmates are the ones saying that those two are having an affair. And I know that it's not in good faith to help Cheryl out of it, because they also stalked her to take a photo of her in the showers while she's naked. So it's not for her sake. This tells me that these students have a grudge against Cheryl, and that what they're saying about Cheryl having an affair with Mr. Gordon is gossip. That there's nothing between them. Also, you can find Mr. Gordon's phone number in a classroom, and if you call it, he'll say that he's being harassed by many people, and in another variant, he actually got police involved to help protect. And I feel he's just a victim of high school culture trying to make Cheryl out to be a seductress villain when he was just trying to help his student. Yeah, that was a long rant about Mr. Gordon. Um, I can talk about the Midwich gossipers. They are awful people, in my opinion, but I'll say they gave me something to talk about and think about, so I'm putting them in D tier. Jimmy Capra. This guy is also kind of the MVP of Shattered Memories. He gets woken up in the middle of the night to help Harry cross a bridge, uh, and he still stays. I like him. We get very little screen time of him, but he seems like a nice guy. Superintendent Gary. This is the superintendent of Nightingale Apartments, um, where Lisa lives. We get very little about him, but it may just be Lisa being cynical as she is in this game. But she says that Gary is giving her a cheap apartment because he likes nurses. But when we call Gary, I'm pretty sure he mentions having a family. I'm gonna put him in D. He might be a weirdo, maybe, but the situation is kinda so weird that it's one of those moments in the game that stand out to you, since it's completely optional to call him. Oh, security guard Malcolm. I'm sorry, guy, S tier. This man, this man, he was a security guard at Toluca Mall. He wanted to help Cheryl. He didn't want to get her into trouble with the law, so he never reported her or tried to catch her. But one time, he kind of had to. So she went. So he went to Cheryl, and Cheryl stabbed him with a knife. And in some versions, he dies from it. Malcolm wanted nothing but to help Cheryl. You can still find his radio and the knife he was stabbed with in an evidence bag in the mall backstage. Malcolm was just too pure for this world. He didn't deserve to die. To look at mall management, uh, well, we get a few glimpses of them, and they are just very corporate and profit-oriented uh, directors. They seem awful to work for. There's also this disgruntled mall shop employee. I know this is a terrible name, but this is the one that you hear a voicemail from saying that they had to close the shop for a photo shoot, and he's very much disgruntled with how the fake customers for the photos are very, very fake, and he sounds very tired with his job. Didier. Uh, Finally, for the minor characters, There's the Bedrock security employee. When you call Bedrock security in Toluca Mall, uh, you get a man that, funnily enough, depending on your profile, because there's variations to this call, but in the one I get the most, um, this employee says that you haven't tripped any alarms, and he can't see you in any camera, so you're probably just playing a prank on him. And I love that variation of the call because it's just foreshadowing that you're not real. Also, I like his attitude. I think his call in general and his personality are great. Oh, and finally, we have to talk about Shattered Memories, James Sunderland. So I know that it looks like, if you've seen just the ending compilations on YouTube, you probably only think that James shows up in the ending itself, but he actually stays in touch with you the entire game. When you start the UFO ending side quest, you get messages from a paranoid UFO conspiracy guy every time you take a photo of an UFO. And at the beginning, it can just be anyone. But as the side quest goes on and you take more photos, you get you get a message saying that he now thinks his wife is an alien. So he locks her in a storeroom, I think, until she starves to death. And then you get to the ending, and his last message is that he'll meet you at the lighthouse. And then you get there, and James shows up at the door. So it's very much implied that the guy that you've been talking with through the side quest is James, and he killed his wife because he thought she was an alien, and that's so fucking hilarious, especially considering that his original actor is kind of a weirdo. So that's a perfect arc for a joke character. I love it. How long have I been streaming for? 2 hours. Oh, okay, so I think we'll wrap things up now. Today we did Homecoming. We did Homecoming, the Orphan games, the Hunger comic, and Shattered Memories. We're making nice progress then. Probably the next one won't be the last either, but I'm planning that the next one will be Downpour, which is many characters, PT, Book of Memories, the arcade. Is that right then? Then the final one will be Ascension, the movies, and we'll finish with the final run of comics, which are Sinner's Reward, Past Life, and Anne's Story. I'm very excited to be finishing this somewhat soon. I hope this hasn't been awkward to watch with my mic and my awkward pronunciation sometimes. And I hope maybe you've learned one or two things about characters, especially from the most obscure entries, because you sure will when we get to Ascension. Alright, Thanks so much for dropping by. We'll see you again soon with Downpour. Goodbye.